Now, the reporter, Peter Malan, whom I'm debating with in this paper, he's the one that actually asked me to write the article and to do a critique of his writings. He accurately describes the ruling party, that's the ANC, as having a lackluster approach to adopting what many has come to describe as the independent candidate approach to politics. Milan rightly raises concerns that even this approach, the independent candidate approach, runs the risk of egocentric and self-serving mania. However, in Milan's observation about the political landscape, he seems to have missed the unfolding of a third approach to politics. And that third approach is happening right here in the Cederberg. The third approach gives the expression to the thrust and the underlying values of the then Van Zyl-Slabbert Commission recommendations, which says that a local politician or governor should be held accountable by the people in his or her constituency. The people who elected the official must hold that person accountable. In short, a constituency-based model. Now to this, we must add the dimension that we have introduced here in the Cederberg, that the local public representative or the councillor or the politician, as whatever we want to call them, actually lives in the community and suffers the same fate as the local residents when there is a failure of service delivery. Now in this little known town of ours and this little known municipality of ours, stuck away here on the west coast, this third approach to governance is unfolding. It's new for South Africa, it's new for the political landscape, and so you may not realize it, but we are being very, very closely watched by many people around the country to see how we are managing this new environment. And I will say right up front, we're not managing it too well, because we get kicked out, we come back, we get kicked out, we come back, but we are still here. We are still here. So, very simply stated, Cederberg Eerste, the grouping that I represent, is a local, community-driven and community-led initiative. We are registered as a residents association, community organization. We're not registered as a political party. And Cederberg Eerste is a singularly focused, narrowly focused, like a donkey with clappers on his eyes like that. We're not interested in what's going on elsewhere in the country, we're just interested in what's going on right here in the Cederberg. And the Cederberg Eerste name says it all. The concerns of the Cederberg kom eerste. And that's where the name comes from, Cederberg Eerste. So the concerns and the dreams of the residents of Cederberg come first. In English, the organization is registered as Cederberg First Residents Association. Now CE, or Cederberg Eerste, emerges from the crucible of protest and deep concern regarding the lack of service delivery in the Cederberg area. In 2021, in the local government elections, Cederberg Eerste ran against the big political parties and won 3 seats. The ANC won 4 seats, the Democratic Alliance 2 seats, Freedom Front 1 seat, and the Patriotic Alliance 1 seat. So suddenly, on the political landscape, there was this group of crazy residents that almost won the entire election. The the ANC just got 5% more than what we did. Now, to rule, you need a majority in the council, and in this instance, those of you that follow the numbers, you need 6 seats in order to be the majority and therefore to rule in the council. So CE formed a coalition with the DA and the Vryheidsfront Plus in order to achieve the needed 6-seat majority. And in that way, we won and governed the Cederberg Council. Consequently, because CE is the majority group within the coalition, because we've got the highest number of votes or seats, we as CE, Cederberg Eerste, took the leadership role within the coalition. Now that in itself is new in South Africa, particularly for political parties, because now, for the first time, a community organization is in charge of, let's call it, the political parties. I don't use the word dictate because community organizations don't know how to dictate. They know how to protest, yes. But so CE, through myself being there, we take the role of the chairpersonship of the coalition, and together with our coalition partners, these other political parties, we govern the Cederberg. What's different and unique and special about our coalition is that within our coalition, there's no disagreements. Or there's no disagreements. We're not backstabbing each other. Of course, we disagree on certain things, but unlike we see elsewhere in the country, they were joked with me this morning. I think it was Freddy who said, you know, if you wake up one morning and you don't greet the councillor in your coalition, tomorrow morning they vote you out. Because they're as fickle as that. We have a different constitution or composition within our coalition. We are sober and realistic politicians. To the extent that when it was time to do a by-election in Ward 5, which is Lambert's Bay, and then again in Ward 6, which is Wuppertal, we followed the principle that says, let's use the most competent, the strongest, and the best candidate to win the election. So in Lambert's Bay, for example, the strongest brand, if you will, in Lambert's Bay was the DA. And so as a coalition, we decided, unlike other political parties, we're not each one of us going to put up a candidate and compete against each other. We will put one candidate up and we'll support the one candidate, because if that candidate wins, the coalition wins. And that's what we did in Lambert's Bay, and that's how we got Dr. John Hayes to win the election in Lambert's Bay. John, maybe just stand up and just wave at the people there. So that's our... So he's the local medical doctor in Lambert's Bay, has been there for more than 3 decades. So almal ken vir hom. He's a trusted person. You go to a doctor that you trust with your life, quite literally. And John, who has been making a contribution in his own way to the betterment of society, says, you know what, this platform gives me a bigger opportunity to make a bigger contribution to building a better Cederberg. So that's what we did in Lambert's Bay. In Wuppertal, we said the strongest brand in Wuppertal of the 3 parties, Vryheidsfront, the DA and CE, is Cederberg Eerste. And so let us support the Cederberg Eerste candidate so that we can win Wuppertal, Ward 6. And you heard Andre earlier, he was our chosen candidate. And as a coalition, we spread the word to all our coalition partners to say, there isn't going to be a DA person on the ballot paper. There isn't going to be a phrase front person on the ballot paper. There's only going to be Andre Maton of CE. We must all vote for Andre. And that's what we did, and that's how we won Ward 6. And that's how we've now come back into power in the municipality. Now, the coalition has been severely tested in recent months. As a result of ward councillors being expelled, crossing the floor, being delinquent, we've then ended up having to have by-elections. But here's the magic of the by-elections. This coalition of very odd people, I'll describe them in a minute, this coalition won the Lamberts Bay by-election, they won the Wuppertal by-election, and in the world of democracy, you will understand that majority rules. Unfortunately, the people that are sitting on the other side of the table are opposition. They don't understand democracy in that way. So om vir hulle uit die stoel uit te kry, moet jy hulle forceer. You got to force them out. To the extent that we had to take the ANC and the PA to the Supreme Court to convince them that 6 is bigger than 5. But a very expensive school that we had to take them to. But that is what we had to do. Now, this third, what I call third way of doing politics in South Africa, this third way of governing, this third way which is a community-based approach to life, this third way is driven from the ground up. Governance from the ground up. A local community-based group or groupings. Instead of shouting and protesting from the sidelines, you get involved, as they would say, you get involved in politics in order to govern. It's easy to protest and throw stones. That's maklik. Dangerous, but it's maklik. It's quite another thing to sit on the other side and rule and govern and be in charge. It's a difference between being a worker and being a manager, I suppose. The workers can complain and complain tot die dag dat jy hulle vir die manager maak. And then they realize, oh, it's not so simple. Né? And that's what's happened in Cederberg. We've gone from protesting around service delivery to saying, you know what, one of the better ways to bring about change is to get involved, get yourself elected. Yes, you stel jou bloot aan 'n hele klomp negatiewe goed. You will be accused of lots of things. We'll come to some of the labels of that in a minute. But you got to, as they say, you've got to buy the ticket in order to ride the bus. Or for those of you that I know play the lotto, and I see most of you play the lotto, or at least dream of winning the lotto. I dream of winning the lotto. And I dream every weekend. What is that special ball or the... Now, you see, I told you play it. I told you play it. You fell right into that trap. But here's the thing. You know, you can watch this lotto thing and you can hope that you win. But if you didn't buy a ticket, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. You've got to buy the ticket. And similarly, you've got to get into this bus called the local municipality and do your thing from the inside. It's not the only place that you do it from, but it's a very effective place from which to try and bring about change. Now, as I conclude, I need to say that it's quite easy to pontificate and to preach and to make statements about the state of affairs down there, as the politicians seem to do from Parliament. because they talk from a privileged and protected environment. They've got their bodyguards, they've got their houses where they don't have Eskom load shedding, and. Let them come live among the community and experience load shedding. Let them drive their cars through the potholes where they have to fix out of their own pockets the damage to their cars. And then they will sing a different tune about life in the hood, or life in the township, or life in the city, life in the dorp. Now, the jury, as they say, is still out on whether this third approach, this community-based approach, is the way of the future for politics in South Africa. Is it the way of the future? Or is what we're doing here in the Cederberg a flash in the pan? Gou, en dan gaan we verdwyn en dan gaan ons maar weer terug to what we used to have. It's an open question. All I can say to you is, as the Cederberg region, we are pioneering a new way of governing in South Africa. Yes, we're a small municipality, but everything that we are experiencing, from the slander that we experience from our fellow politicians who accuse us of stealing land, who accuse us of myself and my partner of farming illegally on municipal land. What else have I been accused of, John? I mean, you name it. I thought they were going to accuse me of stealing another wife. In fact, I can tell you a little story. My wife won't mind, and she's sitting here. So we were campaigning in Lambert's Bay, and Dr. Ray said, you know, I should bring my wife, and we can stay at his hotel there. And so Carol, my wife, joined me for the weekend. So I was there for the week. Stoksie alleen. And the weekend, my girlie came. I can't call her my girlie, maar belangrijk pak, jy weet. Anyway, so my wife arrives. And the people in Lambert's Bay don't know that she's my wife. And so we tried to be romantic, and we've been walking on the beach, lekker, and so on and so on. And the next week, the opposition politicians spread the rumor, Dr. Richards het 'n stukkie in Lambert's Bay. Munte weet die stukkie is my regte stukkie. So yes, you know, people will find any excuse to slander you, to break you down. Why? Well, that's an open question. I'll leave that to the religionists and the psychologists to try and help us understand, why do people find it easier to break you down than rather to build you up? Why is it easier to find what's wrong with you rather than to celebrate what's right with you? And I leave that as a challenge for you this evening. We as a community organization, certainly for as long as I'm going to be the leader, we are going to try and find what's right with you so that we can celebrate what's right with you. We all have problems, we all have challenges, we all have weaknesses. So we don't have to make it worse. Let's find something to make it better. In terms of our approach to governance and to politics, I'm going to end and say, I shared it with the group this morning in the council chambers, it's not complicated. We only want what I think everybody else wants: clean water, clean towns, and clean administration. Dis al, skoon water, skoon dorpe, skoon administrasie. And so, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are supporters of Cederberg Eerste, I would simply want to again say what I said at the start of our meeting or our event this evening. 'n groot dankie. Thank you for the faith that you had in us as a grouping. And then as we went into coalition with the DA and the Vryheidsfront, thank you for the continued faith. Want dit is iets niets gewees. Ek sê, nou, wat maak die mense nou? Are they selling us out? We're not sure. And hopefully 2 by-elections later, you're convinced that we want the best for the Cederberg. We want the best for the Cederberg. Let me close by describing to you who we are as a group of 6 people. And you tell me whether these people are politicians or whether they're crazy residents of the Cederberg. So we'll start with me. Okay, you know I'm crazy, so that's all right. But I'm in Glen William with my partners, the Bassons, and we are citrus farmers in Glen William. So that's me. I'm a citrus farmer and a writer. I write books and I enjoy that, so that's me. We have Councillor Martin Berg. He is the head of Rooibos team, so he's a Rooibos boer. We have Andre Maton. You heard he's an explosives engineer, so don't mess with him, he'll blow you up. In fact, the reason we got him, never mind. I know a building in Voortrekkersstraat that needs to be blown up. But Andre is also a Rooibos tea boer and a veeboer up there in the mountains. Then we've got Johan van Heerden, who's a tax consultant, if I may describe you as such. We have then Dr. Hayes, who's a medical doctor. We've got Leonie Venter, who's studying to become an attorney. And that's our group. Professional people who have careers outside of politics. Unfortunately, the people on the other side of the table does not have the enigste bron van inkomste. That's their only job. We have options. We're blessed to have options. Yeah, it's moeilijk. And we can always do with extra money, so we don't make bones about it. But we come with a different drive, with a different approach to life. And even the people in the council are finding that difficult to understand. Hulle dink ons is mal in ons koppe. We are learning that when you must put in a piece of paper that's a yellow piece of paper, you've got to put in the yellow piece of paper. Right, Johan? I mean, he knows it better than all of us. Ons sê, man, ons worry nie oor daai goed nie. En dan klap hulle vir ons so dik. We don't. Now listen, and don't talk out of our council meetings. We had a council meeting last week for 2 hours. We had a speech about a 29-1 hearing, and she still doesn't know after 2 hours what it is. So good people, thank you so much for coming this evening. I said this evening is an evening of joy, of celebration, and I simply just want to honor and respect the people that make up this coalition that I'm a part of. I feel very privileged to be the leader of the coalition, and by God's grace we can do our best